Hey y'all, it's Kate from the Apothecary and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to talk about A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall. This was my patron pick back in September, I think it was, picked by Ben. This is a uniquely imagined romance with individual characters and twists and turns all over the place. Spoiler-free summary of A Lady for a Duke. This is a lush, sweeping, queer historical romance that's perfect for fans of Bridgerton, Evie Dunmore, and Manda Collins. When Viola Carroll was presumed dead at Waterloo, she took the opportunity to live, at last, as herself. But freedom does not come without a price, and Viola paid for hers with the loss of her wealth, her title, and her closest companion. Years later, past the battles and the wars, Viola learns just how high that price really was. Now, getting into the review part of this review, I love just how different this was, but I'm gonna say that with a grain of salt because I have not read many books like this. I have not read many queer books that deal with a transgender main character in the middle of a romance like this. So I say it's very different, but there could be a whole bunch of books out there that are like this that just have not been experienced yet. So take that for a statement that it's so different with a grain of salt. And if you have seen other books like this before, let me know in the comments below because I really want to start expanding my horizons in my TBRs, and I would love to add more books like this dealing with transgender romances into my TBR. Our characters I loved absolutely so much. We have queer, we have trans, we have gay, we have questioning characters, we have straight characters, we have allies. We have like the whole gambit in the sexual identity characters, and I loved it. I loved exploring all of these different areas. I loved the settings that we had. We had a couple different settings in this book, and I loved them all. But there were a few places where I wanted just a wee bit more atmosphere throughout. I wanted to feel those places more. Our writing style was tricky for me, and this is where I had the lowest rating. For me, it felt like there was basically two different stories in one book. Two different books with two different storylines that were kind of melded together into one book. They were kind of two separate books that were related to each other, thrown into one binding. And for some people, they love it. For me, I want one continuous story. If there's two separate stories, I want them in two separate books so I can be able to digest them properly. For me, it's hard to digest when it's like that. The plot, like I said, there felt like there were two different books, and this is where the plot kind of is. Felt like there were two different plot lines going on here. One in the first half of the book and one in the second. And although I loved them both, I again wanted one continuous plot. Intrigue, there was way more than I expected in this book, in this romance. Usually I don't have a lot of intrigue. This is usually my lowest score on my CAWPILE ratings for romances, but there was so much intrigue for me, I was pleasantly surprised. Logic and relationship was absolutely fantastic. Everything made sense. The relationships, all of the different kinds, developed exactly how I wanted them to, but in not a predictable way, and I loved how they developed. Enjoyment, as you can see, I enjoyed this book. This is a very, very slow build. At times it felt a little bit too slow for me, but I enjoyed it nonetheless, and I love how it made me kind of expand out of my comfort zone and experience something different that I normally wouldn't have picked up on my own just because I didn't know this book existed, really. So now I want to read more like this. I want more trans romances. I want more gay romances. I want the whole gambit. I want to diversify my TBR. So make sure you hit those recommendations in the comments below. Hit me up with all your recommendations. Now, something new that I'm adding into these romance books are the spice levels. I had some people ask in previous reviews, well, how spicy is it? What are the spice levels? Now, first of all, take this spice level rating with a grain of salt, because this is my own personal view, and you might think things are more spicy or less spicy than they are. This is also me trying to remember how many sex scenes and how much was in it, and I might be remembering wrong, so take everything here with a grain of salt. But for A Lady for a Duke, I gave this a spice level somewhere between a 2 and a 3, meaning that there was one or more sex scenes, I want to say 2 to 3 sex scenes, that as the novel progressed, they got spicier and spicier and more explicit as they went on. There was some kissing, some explicitity, but it still was more about the romance and less about the sex, more about the characters and the plot, less about the actual sex scenes. So I felt safe giving it around a 2 or 3, kind of like a 2.5 for me on the spice level. If you have read A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall, let me know in the comments below. What did you think of it? Did you love it like I did? Don't forget to hit me up with those recommendations for other books like this. And as always, keep reading, and I love you all to the moon and back. Bye.